All right, I have a 2015 Dodge Grand Caravan with 3.6. It's running rough and check engine lights on. Scan the codes, and I have so far a 303 cylinder 3 misfire and a 219A bank 1 air fuel ratio imbalance. Quick did a visual inspection. Don't see any vacuum leaks, anything like that. Check the firing order. The rear bank is 135, so the center cylinder in the rear is the one that's got a misfire. It is counting misfires on the monitor, so it's actively misfiring right now. I'm gonna take a couple things apart here and see what we got. All right, so I removed the duct working for the air cleaner. So this is gonna be cylinder 3. Connections in, I don't see any broken wires. Same thing with the injector, it's plugged in. I don't see anything bad with it. It does have 120,000 miles, so I'm gonna start by pulling the coil and taking a look at the spark plug and see what it tells me. All right, so I've removed the plug. I see no signs of carbon tracking down the side. I don't know how good this is gonna focus. There it is. Don't really see any kind of problem. That's just oil right there, yeah. A little bit of oil on the threads, but don't see any problem with the coil either. I think what we'll do is we'll swap. I'll put this plug back in that hole, and I'm gonna take number 1 coil and number 3 and swap them and see if my misfire moves and follows the coil. All right, now that I know what the plug and the coil look like, I took number 3 and I switched it with number 1, so these two are reversed. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and see what happens with my misfiring. Okay, it's definitely still missing. I can hear it missing. Lights on, but not flashing. Let's see if it switched cylinders. All right, so I'm pulling up the data for misfire, and the miss stayed on cylinder 3. So I swapped these two around, and you can still see cylinder 3's counting. So it's probably not the coil. There's actually no difference when I disconnect the coil. See on cylinder 1 here, definitely starts running bad. Trying to see if I can feel the injector clicking. Can't really tell the difference between them. Where we go from here. All right, so I've done here is I've wired injector 1 to my ohm meter, and I got 13 ohms of resistance. So I'm gonna switch it here, unplug these. We're gonna see if I can get in here one-handed. Got that one plugged in. Get round one here. I just took apart a connector to make it easier to make sure I'm making contact with the pins. And then we're plugged in there, and our ohm meter says nothing. You see those little contacts where I touched it together, so you know it's working. Like if I pinch them, there's 0, they're touching. Open them up, open loop. So our number 3 misfire is 99% certain we're gonna have a failed injector. That's an open circuit. All right, so the first step on getting the injector out is I remove the intake manifold. I might have been able to get to the bolts and get it out without taking the manifold off, but for the 10 minutes it takes to pull the manifold, it just makes sense to have access to everything and not try and figure out what's going on underneath the intake. So we'll get the injector out. All right, so I went to pull the rail, and the rail came out, but all the injectors stayed in. So we'll have to make sure you get all the O-rings out of here. There's one down in there. And we'll put new O-rings on the injectors that pulled out of the rail, and we're gonna replace this guy. It should just pull right out. Well, yeah, it's kind of stuck in the intake, which is why they all came out of the rail. But I'll get that popped out and show you what it looks like. And I got the injector out. These two stayed in, but because the O-rings pulled out of here, never want to reuse them. I found the two off of the injector and the two that were stuck in that came off the other injectors. I have two replacements for those, and my new injector comes with O-rings. I'm not going to replace the lower ones because I didn't take them out of the manifold. They should be fine in that leak. Easiest way I found to do this is I use a little bit of lithium grease, but I only use a drop. So like, I put this much on my finger just so it's a little bit wet, and then just touch the ring on the outside of the injector, just to kind of give it a coating. And you don't want to spray it directly on the injector and obviously put grease inside of the injector, but having a little bit of a slippery surface on those O-rings makes them so much easier to get in. And as long as you don't have it coated thick, this isn't going to hurt anything. So I've done it for years. All right, so we have the rail sitting back on top of the injectors, and it's pushed all the way down. You never want to use your bolts to tighten the O-ring into the rail or the manifold, because if it's taking pressure off of a bolt to do it, more than likely the O-ring's pinched and not going in straight. You want to make sure it just pushes and snaps in nice and smooth, and you shouldn't take too much excessive force to get it done. So we'll go ahead and torque these bolts up, throw the intake on it, and see if our misfire's gone. Okay, so I've got everything back on except for the air duct. Obviously I'll set a code because of the intake air temp sensor, but that won't affect what we're looking at here. Rails in, everything's torqued. We're gonna start it up and have no misfire. At least I hope. So right off the bat, personally feel that it sounds smoother. Better. Let's see if the computer's picking up anything. We go to system test. And cylinder's misfiring. We have zeros. Okay, so I'm going through and doing a complete code erase, resetting everything. Engine's all back together. I looked around real good, made sure there's no fuel leaks. As soon as this is done, I just did a full code clear because there were some other codes in there too that just get everything reset here. Oh, this is boring. I'm gonna do this. All right, so I've done a full code clear of all the modules. So we can go back to engine and go into system test. And our misfiring cylinder. Let's get her started up here. Check engine light. Sounds nice and smooth. Misfire monitor's in progress, and it is showing no misfires. The other code we had was fuel trims, which I assume was because of the injector. So let's go into a data stream back here, and let's look at what long-term, short-term data is at the moment. I'm not sure if it resets with the code cleared. the Chrysler. So no, long term is still at 18.4, but if you look at short term, it's at 20. So what's going to happen is this is going to walk that number back to 0, which, and if you look at, here's bank 1, or sorry, bank 2. Bank 2 is at just about 0, and long term is at 0. So yeah, this 18.4 will be corrected soon enough just by driving it as it resets itself now that the injector's working again. The computer was adding a bunch of fuel on bank 1 because that injector wasn't firing. So there might be a reset for that in here. I may be able to just reset it to 0. Probably doing a memory reset. I think this is... Tell you what, since it shouldn't affect anything, it shouldn't cause a problem. I think I'm just going to let it naturally walk itself back. No, actually, she drove it for a really long time this way. I'm going to do a full memory reset because, yeah, we're still at 20 and 18. Let me shut the car off. Because otherwise it'll have to relearn all the fuel cells, and the numbers are going to be off for quite a while until it hits every temperature at every speed and every throttle position. So we know it's fixed. I'm going to go in and do a memory reset, and I assume this resets all adaptives. Oh, okay, look at, we can do whatever we want. We can do all adaptive memory. No, we're just gonna do fuel. Memory fuel has been reset. Awesome. So now, on my data stream, we should be starting out with long term at 0. Why is long term still at 18.4? I'm not sure about that. Unless maybe it takes a key cycle. So I'm going to shut it off. And now I'm going to start it. Because I would have thought setting that to 0 would have reset it, but... Oh yeah, 100%. Key had to be cycled in order to actually get it, so we're already at 0. Short term's taken a little bit out, which I'm sure that's going to come back around to plus or minus 10%. Won't cause any issue in the short term. And yeah, zeros and zeros, so this car should be fixed. We'll let it run for a while, make sure we don't get any other codes. But thanks for watching.